Now, episode 8 of Mayor of Kingstown, titled The Devil Is Us, starts off with a recap of where Mike, at the end of episode 7, found this tin metal case that Milo told him to go find. Well, they find it, and they unearth it, and it's an 8-ton school bus. Yeah. So they break into it, and they find 26 bodies in this bus that is hanging like cocoons. And it's insane because it's not what you expected how this episode to start. But then it's not what you actually expect for, what Milo wanted Mike to find, because that's not what he wanted him to find. So Mike goes to the lawyer, Milo's lawyer, and tells him that he found all this stuff, and the lawyer says you weren't supposed to find that, you were supposed to find something else. So it's very unexpected of how this episode is. This episode is probably the best written episode of the season so far. Episodes 1 through 5 were kind of slow going, but 6, 7, and 8 really stepped up the pace of how things are and how things are going. And I absolutely love the writing, the action, the suspense, the dialogue really worked. And like I've said over the course of my review for this show, I wasn't a fan of the character of Iris. She felt dull. It felt like she was just thrust in this world with no meaning at all. But she really, really had a big role in this episode. Other than that, we find that the prison inmates at the prison are putting something together to, attack the guards. Yeah, the whites, the blacks, the mafia. Trying to coerce and trying to figure things out. Mike wants everything to be under control, so he goes to Bunny, and then Bunny's like, yeah, we have everything under control. Mike definitely doesn't believe him. So Mike goes to Pete, the leader of the so-called whites, the guy with the bald head who owns that truck stop or whatever. Goes to him, and Mike tells him, listen, hey, I don't owe you anything. What we did in prison was in prison. Here out in the real world, I don't owe you shit. And, Mike goes on and on and on. And then all of a sudden, we find that where the character of Iris was with Pete and his gang at this house, they drugged her up and everything, but they sold her to a gang of blacks that nothing have to do with Bunny. So this gang who's driving in a van actually go into the territory where Bunny owns, and the territory where Bunny's gang is. They shoot this car down, they shoot everything, and they catch Iris, and they take her back to Bunny's place, and Mike comes around, picks her up, knows what's happened, and then he goes back to Pete's. And Iris is like, no, no, no. And then Mike was like, listen, hey, just tell me if he did it. So Mike just does what he does, and holy shit, it's a crazy scene that you did not expect. I will not say what happened, but you have to see this episode in order to believe what happened. So this whole aspect of what, this Mike is doing is interesting. And then his receptionist, Rebecca, gets a new office, but the new office is across the street from the previous office. It's really interesting, and Mike is like, I can't get away from this. It's 100 feet away, and this is what happens. So then that happens, and then at the women's prison, the character of Sam, the guard who was transferred from the men's prison because for his protection, something happens to his character. I will say, in this episode, it was an untimely, unexpected death that really didn't serve a purpose in this series at all, and it didn't make sense because I feel like they just killed this one character off because just to write off the character. That's all they did. It wasn't a closure, it wasn't anything. It was just stupidity of the mind of how this character works. If they did what they had to do, then if they followed directions, then this person would probably still be alive. But the way it was done, the way Taylor Sheridan wrote this scene, it was kind of idiotic in a way, I want to say, based on the character, because the character was so smart at what they were doing for this whole time, and then all of a sudden that happens. I wasn't really impressed about how this character really, had met their untimely fate, but I mean, I guess it goes into the whole aspect of what goes on in certain locations in this show. Other than that, Mike is trying to do his best to stay sane, and it's just like Mike's trying to close everything up, and he didn't want this, but his brother was the one who was the mayor of Kingstown, and now he is so-called the mayor of Kingstown. Mike is trying to do the best to keep things focused. I'm curious to see what happens in episodes 9 and 10, because this is a 10 episode season 1, so anything is possible and anything can happen. Now, Jeremy Renner is an exceptional actor. You saw him in Hawkeye. From that character to this character is so crazy and more gritty. I absolutely love it. He stands on his own in this show, and he actually makes this show really worth watching. Finding him in a show like this is great. If you've never heard of the show like this, check it out. It's really fun. If you love Hawkeye, if you love Jeremy Renner as an actor, watch this show. Mike the character is really in your face and gritty, and he doesn't give a shit. There's been a long time since we had a TV character for that matter, who is gritty and in your face and doesn't give a shit and does things by his own terms. And the character that Jeremy Renner plays, Mike McCluskey, is really good at doing that. I absolutely loved this episode, like I said in the beginning, with the writing, the dialogue, how everything, story arc was good. It was great. We don't know what's going to happen now, but the way Taylor Sheridan wrote this and the way Clark Johnson directed it was really good. So let me know in the comment section below what you thought about episode 8 of Mayor of Kingstown, The Devil Is Us. Did you like it? Did you not like it? What did you think of it? And I'll see you guys in my next review video, and be sure you tune in next week for my episode 9 review of Mayor of Kingstown.